There is a question almost every woman over 60 wants to ask her doctor and almost never does, because it feels too embarrassing to say out loud in a 10-minute appointment. The question is simple. Are there tools, actual physical tools, that can genuinely help with intimacy after 60? Or is that just something younger generations talk about? I am going to answer that question completely and honestly today, because the answer matters far more for your physical health than most women realize, and the silence around this topic is costing women comfort, sensation, and confidence they do not need to live without. I am Dr. William Harrison, and I have specialized in women's intimate health after menopause for more than 20 years. Let me say something plainly before we go any further. The tools I am going to walk you through today are not novelties, and they are not embarrassing. From a clinical standpoint, they are simply devices that address specific physiological changes that happen to every woman's body after menopause. The same way reading glasses address a specific change in your eyes, or a heating pad addresses a specific change in your joints. Nobody apologizes for wearing reading glasses. There is no reason to feel differently about devices that support intimate tissue health and sensation. Before I walk you through the three I genuinely recommend in my practice, I want to know something. If the idea of using a wellness tool for this purpose has ever crossed your mind but felt too uncomfortable to act on, write "curious but unsure" in the comments below. I promise you, you will see that sentence echoed by dozens of other women this week alone, and there is real comfort in realizing this is a shared, ordinary curiosity, not some private oddity. And if you want honest, judgment-free guidance like this every week, subscribe now so future videos reach you directly. Let me tell you about Diane. Diane is 66 years old, remarried for 6 years after losing her first husband. She came to my clinic with a concern she almost did not voice. She told me that since menopause, stimulation that used to work simply did not register the way it once had, and she assumed this meant her body had permanently lost a level of responsiveness she would never get back. She had tried, in her words, just trying harder, which understandably led nowhere and left her feeling discouraged. When I explained that this was a measurable physiological change with very specific, well-understood solutions, not a personal failing, something visibly shifted in her posture. We discussed exactly the three tools I am about to share with you. She introduced the first one gradually over several weeks, and at her follow-up appointment she told me, smiling, "I didn't think I'd ever feel that again." And I do. That sentence is the entire reason this conversation deserves to happen openly, rather than in hushed, apologetic tones. Let's quickly cover why tools become genuinely more useful after 60. Because understanding the mechanism removes any lingering sense that needing help here means something is wrong with you. After menopause, nerve density and blood flow to genital tissue both decrease somewhat, which means the threshold for sensation rises. Stimulation that once registered easily now sometimes needs to be slightly stronger, more consistent, or more precisely targeted to produce the same response. This is not a flaw in your body. It is simply a recalibration, the same way your hearing threshold or your vision threshold shifts gradually with age, requiring tools most people accept without a second thought. The right wellness tool does not replace your body's natural capacity. It simply meets your body at its new threshold, the way a hearing aid meets your ears at theirs. Tool number 1, and the one I recommend most often as a starting point: a gentle, low-intensity, external clitoral stimulator. I want to be specific about what to look for, because the market is enormous and much of it is genuinely unhelpful for women in this stage of life. Look for a device with a soft silicone tip, multiple low-intensity settings rather than only high-intensity options, and a quiet motor, because for many women, comfort and calm matter just as much as the stimulation itself. The clitoris contains roughly 8,000 nerve endings, a number that does not meaningfully decline with age, but as I mentioned, the threshold to activate them does rise somewhat. A gentle external stimulator addresses this directly by providing consistent, adjustable sensation precisely where it is needed, without requiring prolonged manual effort that can sometimes lead to fatigue or frustration before a response builds. I tell my patients to begin on the very lowest setting, external only, for short sessions of 5 to 10 minutes, simply allowing the body to relearn its own responsiveness without pressure or a specific goal attached. Most women report a noticeable difference within 2 to 4 sessions. Tool number 2, and I want you to pay particularly close attention here because this is the tool with the most overlooked medical importance of the 3, even though it sounds the least exciting. A set of graduated vaginal weights, sometimes called Kegel weights or vaginal cones, used specifically for pelvic floor training. Here is what almost nobody explains clearly. Pelvic floor muscles do not just affect bladder control. They are directly responsible for the strength of orgasmic contraction, and after 60, without targeted strengthening, this muscle group often weakens considerably from years of underuse. Standard Kegel exercises help, but many women perform them incorrectly, engaging the wrong muscles entirely without realizing it. Graduated weights solve this problem elegantly, because your body has to correctly engage the pelvic floor simply to hold the weight in place, which means you get accurate feedback rather than guessing whether you are doing the exercise properly. Begin with the lightest weight in a set. Worn internally for 10 to 15 minutes while doing ordinary tasks like preparing dinner or folding laundry, and progress to a heavier weight only once the current one feels easy to hold without conscious effort. Most women progress through 2 to 3 weight levels over 6 to 8 weeks, and the resulting improvement in pelvic floor strength translates directly into noticeably stronger, more satisfying contractions during orgasm. I have had patients describe this specific change as more significant than any other single intervention we discussed, which is exactly why I asked you to pay close attention here. Tool number 3, and this one is less a device and more a category, but it deserves equal attention. A dedicated, high-quality personal lubricant system, ideally including both a daily vaginal moisturizer and a separate lubricant used specifically during intimacy. I want to draw a clear distinction here, because most women use one product for both purposes and end up disappointed with the results from each. A vaginal moisturizer, used every few days regardless of activity, is designed to be absorbed into tissue over time, gradually improving baseline hydration and elasticity. A lubricant, used specifically in the moment, is designed to reduce friction immediately rather than absorb slowly. Using a lubricant as your only hydration strategy is like using hand sanitizer as your only moisturizer. It solves an immediate problem but does nothing for the underlying tissue health. When selecting either product, avoid anything containing glycerin, parabens, or added fragrance, all of which can irritate already sensitive postmenopausal tissue and disrupt your natural pH balance. Choose a water-based or silicone-based formula specifically labeled for vaginal use, and if you use the first tool I mentioned alongside a silicone-based lubricant, double-check the device material, because silicone lubricant can occasionally degrade certain device coatings over prolonged use, so checking the manufacturer's compatibility guidance takes 30 seconds and prevents a frustrating, avoidable problem. Now, let me tell you what to avoid completely, because I have seen well-meaning women purchase the wrong product and conclude that tools simply do not work for them, when the actual issue was the specific product chosen. Avoid anything marketed primarily through exaggerated claims, dramatic before and after promises, or language that feels more like a gimmick than a genuine wellness product, because that marketing style usually signals a company more focused on conversion than on tissue safety. Avoid extremely high-intensity devices as a starting point, even if reviews praise their strength, because starting too intense before your body has re-established its threshold often causes overstimulation, mild irritation, or simple discomfort that discourages further use entirely. And avoid feeling that you need to use all 3 tools at once. Introduce one at a time, give your body 2 to 3 weeks to adjust and respond, and only then consider adding the next. I also want to address something directly because I know it crosses many women's minds and rarely gets said aloud. Using these tools does not mean anything about the strength of your relationship, your partner's adequacy, or your own desirability. These are physiological support tools, exactly the same category as the reading glasses I mentioned earlier. Many couples incorporate these tools together as a part of shared intimacy, and many women use them entirely on their own. Both are completely valid, and neither requires justification to anyone. Let me answer a few practical questions I hear constantly in my clinic, because they tend to be the exact concerns that quietly stop women before they even try. Is it safe to use these tools if I am also using vaginal estrogen cream prescribed by my doctor? In almost all cases, yes, the two approaches work well together, and many of my patients combine them, though it is always worth a quick confirmation with your own prescribing physician. Do I need my partner's involvement to start, or can I explore this entirely privately first? You can absolutely start alone. In fact, many women find that exploring privately first, simply to understand their own current responsiveness, makes any later conversation with a partner far easier and far less pressured. What if I try one of these tools and feel nothing at all the first time? That is genuinely common and does not mean the tool failed. Nerve pathways that have gone quiet for years sometimes need several short, low-pressure sessions before responsiveness returns. The same way a limb that has fallen asleep needs a few minutes before full sensation comes back. Let me give you a realistic expectation timeline, because that matters more than any single product recommendation. In the first 1 to 2 weeks of introducing the external stimulator, most women are simply relearning their own responsiveness. No pressure, no specific goal. By week 3 or 4, response time typically shortens noticeably, and sensation feels more familiar again. If you introduce the pelvic floor weights during this same period, by week 6 to 8, you will likely notice a meaningfully stronger, more defined orgasmic contraction, which patients consistently describe as the most rewarding change of the three. The lubricant and moisturizer system works on a different timeline entirely. Tissue hydration typically improves steadily over 3 to 4 weeks of consistent use, and many women notice reduced everyday irritation, not just during intimacy, within the first 2 weeks alone. If you take only one thing from today's video, take this. Needing a tool is not evidence that something is wrong with your body. It is evidence that your body changed in a specific, well-documented way after menopause, the same way every woman's body does. And that specific, well-documented tools exist to meet that change directly. There is nothing to apologize for, nothing to hide, and absolutely nothing to feel behind on. Here is exactly what I want you to do this week. First, choose just one of the 3 tools we discussed today, the one that addresses whatever concern feels most relevant to you right now. Second, before purchasing anything, check the ingredient or material list against what I described. No glycerin, no parabens, no added fragrance for lubricants, soft silicone and low-intensity settings for stimulators, and a graduated weight set rather than a single fixed weight for pelvic floor training. Third, give yourself permission to start at the lowest, gentlest setting available, because rebuilding sensation works far better gradually than aggressively. And finally, be patient with the timeline I just gave you, because the women who see the most meaningful change are consistently the ones who give each tool its proper 2 to 3 weeks before drawing any conclusions. If today's video gave you permission you did not know you were waiting for, share it with a friend who has quietly wondered about this exact question and never felt comfortable asking anyone, including her own doctor. And leave a comment letting me know which of the 3 tools you are most curious to try first. Simply the number 1, 2, or 3, because it genuinely helps me decide what to cover next for this community. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because every week I cover honest, medically grounded topics about intimate health after 60 that almost nobody else is willing to discuss this directly. I will leave you with this. Your body did not lose its capacity for sensation and pleasure when it changed after menopause. It simply asked for a slightly different kind of support, and now you know exactly what that support looks like, without shame, without apology, and without waiting any longer than you have to. I am Dr. William Harrison, and I will see you in the next video.